Welcome to One-on-One. I'm your host, Lee Adams, and so happy to have you today. We have some guests here that I'm very excited about. When we were teenagers, let's try to think back to when we were teenagers. We're teenagers, we're starting to see some things we're not used to seeing. One of those things are people smoking, people looking at drinking and drugs, and we all get to look at it. And so what did you do? What did I do? What did any of us do? I mean, we all reacted in a different way. Well, today our guests are here, and we're going to talk about that because some of their story starts right around that time, and now they're doing some really special things. I'd like to introduce you to two people originally from Penn Hills, my hometown. They are the founders of YOU, Young Overcomers United. They wrote this book, Good Kids Gone Bad, and it's a terrific book. These are terrific people. Please let me introduce to you Mr. and Mrs. Joe and Chris Maxim. Joe and Chris, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
What a blessing to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here. I usually have 50,000 questions that I'm all ready to go, but after hearing your story, I thought, you know what, let's just talk about your story. We all have a story, all of us. And you guys have a really interesting story, and I want to share this with people to watch this because I think it inspires me. It inspires me.
Well, good.
So, Joe and Chris, you guys come from big families. Chris, how many in your family?
9.
And you are number what of 9?
9.
9 of 9?
Yes.
And Joe, how many in your family?
There's 8 of us.
8. And what number are you?
8 of 8.
8 of 8 and 9 of 9. Like the two youngest, that's
We
something.
stick together.
Well, what's it like, Chris? What's it like being the youngest of 9? Tell us that.
It was great. There was never a dull moment, I can say that. And, most of my brothers and sisters all looked out for me. I got trotted around. Sometimes they didn't want me there, but they had to have me. But it was great. My parents are immigrants from Europe, so...
What part?
My mother's from Germany. My father originally from Poland, but got taken during the war to Germany. And so he lost his family, but he met my mom.
That's another story.
Where did they meet?
In the Army. My mother was a nurse's aide, and my father actually, I don't even want to go into this, but he got taken into a work camp. From Poland, the Nazis took him over, and on the third time, they had tried to take him twice. On the third time, he got on the train, and 2 of his buddies, they were jumping off the train, and he got hurt. He got a bullet or something put in his hand, so he thought he'd better stay. So they put him in a work camp, and then when the American forces came through, he kind of helped them out because he knew where a lot of things were. And then he was in the German military and met my mom as a nurse's aide. And they had 3 kids and came over with my oldest 3 sisters in 52.
That's an unbelievable story.
It is.
That's unbelievable.
It is.
Goodness gracious. Chris, I didn't expect that.
He's in the Holocaust Museum.
He's in the Holocaust Museum?
Yeah.
Your dad?
Yeah.
In D.C.?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
They sent us
What's
a
his
letter.
name?
Joseph Zalonka, but has passed.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, that is amazing, really amazing. Joe, how about being the youngest of 8? What was that like?
Wow. I could just close my eyes and look. The youngest of 8. There's 5 boys and 3 girls. It was good. It was eventful. It was a lot of pain, torture, happiness. It was all the above, being the youngest, the skinniest, the smallest at the time. it was all the above. But my sisters really, they took care of me. They spoiled me, so to speak. They all say, they still call me Joey by name, my family. I'm the youngest of 8, so we'll never get over that Joey name, but it was good.
Sisters are the best.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
I think so. I got a great one. So
I got 3 of them.
you have some good ones. Yeah.
I have 6 of them.
You have 6 of them? Wait, 7 girls and 2 boys. Man, those boys are outnumbered.
They were, but they got spoiled.
Yeah, I'll bet. You know, that'll be a good spot for a boy. So anyway, yeah, Penn Hills was really interesting. And, you know, when you guys went to school there, what I think a lot of people don't understand is it was the second largest school district in the entire state of Pennsylvania.
Enormous.
I mean, when you walked the hallways and the bell would ring and you'd have to go to the next class, it looked like a herd of cattle was coming at you. When you got to Linton in the high school, you couldn't believe it. And the
Yeah.
stairwells were just, don't trip because you're going to get trampled. So what was it like for you to grow? What was it like for you to deal with the masses amount of people at the high school? Chris, we'll start with you.
I really didn't have a problem with it. Probably coming from a big family, those big numbers didn't bother you. I thought it was great. I mean, I thought Penn Hills was great.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people. You
lot
met
of
a lot
people.
of friends, and it was very diverse.
Yeah.
So it was good, but it was hard to get to the next class.
It was. Joe, how about you? What was your impressions about being around all those people in the schools?
Overwhelming. I came
Yeah,
from a
right.
little Catholic school, St. Bartholomew's in Penn Hills,
Yeah.
and then going to a John H. Linton had 2,700 kids. It was a world.
For 2 grades.
2 grades.
2 grades.
Ninth and-
2,700
yes.
kids.
I didn't see that many kids all my life growing up.
Think about that.
yeah.
You know, you walk into St. Bart's, which was a smaller Catholic
Sure.
school, and then you walk into that? That had to be shocking.
It was an eye opener.
Yeah.
Yeah, scared to death. Just overwhelming.
Yeah. So, Chris, were you involved in anything extracurricular in school, or what did you do?
I just went to school. No, actually, I worked at 13. I had a job after school. I worked at a little nursery not far from my house right after school. So, and when you're number 9 and 9, your parents aren't driving you anywhere. You know, even though I know there were buses back then that would take you, but I mean, for tryouts and stuff like that, you know, my mom was just worried about feeding all 9.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, survival.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Joe? What did you do extracurricular in
Like
school?
every little boy in Penn Hills, I think, mostly played sports, especially at the Catholic school. It's a nice small school, so everyone got to play. Everyone was somewhat of a fairly decent athlete because you didn't know any different. And then when your eye opens up to the public school, there was no playing sports anymore for me as far as football or anything like that. It was just too small. I was really, 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 really skinny and small.
You filled out.
A little bit. That was from her mom and her cooking. Holy cow. When I met her, I was 153 pounds. I graduated 153, and now I'm 320. So
320.
do the math on, she can cook.
Yeah, well, that's great. Good for you. You look great. You guys look great. It was an amazing place, and it's shocking to see all those kids coming at you. And then
Yeah.
as an athlete, it was amazing the competition that we were
Oh, my
just
goodness.
to make the teams, let alone get on the field or get on the court. It was just crazy competitive.
Sure.
So, you know, you're in high school, and when did you guys meet?
When she was 15, she stole my heart.
15
Yeah. She worked at a shoe tree in Penn Hill Shopping Center.
at the
And-
Shoe Tree,
Yes.
Penn Hill Shopping Center.
Yes.
Helping
For-
people buy shoes.
And so it's been love ever since. Well, actually, I think she's on a mission of mercy.
I am. I was. I
What do you
am.
mean by that?
She's never done anything wrong in her life. She didn't follow the Penn Hills, live to get high, live to drink, live to do this. She stayed the course. She was, what was most attractive, she knew who she was. She loved her parents. She could spend time with mom and dad, and I thought that was awesome. Like, that was phenomenal. That she wanted to be with her mom, like during the holidays, to learn how to cook and do all this. That was unbelievable. So there's so many things. It's just God ordained, young and dumb. And I think if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. There's a lot to that. But,
So, Chris, what did you see in Big Joe? But he wasn't Big Joe back then, was he?
No, he wasn't Big Joe. It was, what did I see in Joe? He was just so sweet. He was just a nice kid, cute. But you worked.
Now I'm sexy.
Oh, let's not get crazy. But
She's keeping you alive.
he was just, we got along. We started off as friends. We would talk on the phone all the time. And actually, I was trying to set him up with one of my girlfriends, and went the other way, went the correct way.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that? Interesting. How long have you been together now?
Let's see.
1980.
Well, yeah, so 40,
I'm from Penn Hills. You do the math.
1980?
45.
Yeah.
That is 45 years. Yeah. Yeah. I'm an athlete and a mathlete, so I can do that in my head.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's amazing, but I think it's even more amazing once we hear your story. And so, so now, Joe, let's talk about, you were talking about this running hard and having fun lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, I was on the athletic side and I played sports and we couldn't get in trouble and we couldn't do bad in our school, or we couldn't play because it was so competitive to stay there. So I didn't get involved with that. Plus my father was a police officer and he would have killed me. And so I stayed the straight and narrow, but there's a lot of kids, as we were talking about in the intro, we see a lot as teenagers.
Sure.
There's a lot of things going on. People are smoking weed and drinking beers and this and that. So it's tempting because as teenagers, you're just wanting to see what life is and experiment. And so you got into that, I guess is what you're saying.
Sure.
Yeah. And so what took you down that road, and what, as you can recall, what was taking you down that road?
Well, first of all, being the youngest of 8 kids, you see everything that goes on in the family. And you inherit the sins of your fathers and forefathers. So 6 out of 8 kids, 5 boys and one of my sisters, became alcoholics and or addicts.
6 out of 8?
6 out of 8. So picture that mom, 6 out of 8 kids, alcoholics and or addicts. Think of that for a second. And anybody watching this that knows that somebody always knows somebody who's in it, who has a problem in the family. But 6 out of 8, could you picture my mom, what she had to go through? So as a young boy, I thought I was going to be a basketball player. That never happened. I thought I was going to be, a volleyball player. That happened. I got a full ride to University of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I blew that thinking I was going to become some professional bodybuilder. And at such a young age, I wanted to be big because I was so skinny. My brothers are very large, and I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be always attracted to work out, to exercise. So I was on that road and looked pretty good, but never.
How old were you then?
I started at a young age. I started lifting weights when I was probably 12 or 13, but never, because I was so skinny, nothing ever transpired until I started taking steroids. And so at a young age, 9th grade, walked into John H. Linton, and the very first day I was in there, and I won't mention the name, but someone gave me a bag of weed. Just like that, a little nickel bag, and for people from Penn Hills, it was nickel, dime, quarter, half, and so they gave me a little nickel, and I just was on. I knew it. Prior to that, I was at Penn Aqua Swim Club, and that's in Penn Hills, and naturally, people from Penn Hills will know where that's at. And another young man, when I was 12 or 13, right outside the swim club, went up in the woods and got high for the first time, and it was devastating me. I felt out of body. I felt scared to death, but my body physically loved it, and I didn't understand that. So I went on to John H. Linton and got that bag of weed, and right then and there I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to get high. And for people in recovery, they understand that. And some people say you chase that first high the rest of your life. Maybe. It is very progressive. And so in 9th grade, still taking care of myself, didn't do really well in school. I can't even spell school, and we wrote a book, right? And so we started getting bigger and playing volleyball more, basketball, got kicked off the basketball team and played high school volleyball. And after that,
Why'd you get kicked off?
got kicked off the basketball team because they said I was part of the little group of people that beat up one of the coaches' sons, and I was not. So they asked me to come back on the team, and being a Penn Hills bonehead, I said, no, F you, I don't believe in that. And so just went through school, but wanted to play volleyball, got real good at it, could jump out of the gym, but I didn't respect it that it could do anything for me. It was just an outlet because I love sports. And we'd go to the tournaments every Saturday and play 10-hour tournaments and love it. Made the all-state team, all these things, and I just blew it and made the junior Olympic team and just didn't care. Because once your mind is set on getting high, that's what you want to do. And so I thought I was going to be this monster bodybuilder. I thought I was going to be this guy that walked someplace and was just ginormous. Well, it did start happening. So after high school, unbeknownst to me, working every day, and I worked full-time as a union bricklayer at Monroeville, a company called Airtight Company on Rhode. I rode in Penn Hills, been there since after high school. They're still there today. I still work for them. But started working for them, going to the gym every day, and then started getting high Friday, Saturday. Then it became Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Then it became Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then it became anytime you could. But in that, there's a long story of going from 153 pounds to 320 pounds, what it took. Now it's just a mountain of flesh, but before it looked somewhat good. And I could never, ever, ever make it in the bodybuilding world. It's just too disciplined. It's just the way you eat, everything about it. Could never do it. So I was a generic steroid freak from Penn Hills and got very large. And so that continued. And I didn't realize.
Did you compete?
I did twice. Did twice.
Chris, well, this is starting to go on, like you were talking about how nice and sweet he was. And now he starts to use and he starts to do weed, smoke weed and whatever else. Like, what are you seeing from your lens?
Well, I mean, at that point, we're young. So when you're young, you don't think future, you don't think addiction, you don't think death, you don't think any of those things. And he was still sweet. I mean, he was very good to me, except for I would get dropped off at midnight and he'd go and do his stuff because that just wasn't me.
So he sort of kept it from you?
No, I knew what he was doing, but
it wasn't affecting you?
No, because I didn't need it. It wasn't.
Well, the facade is too. When you look good, a lot of people don't look at the negatives. You're working 6 days a week. You're going to the gym 5 and 6 days a week. You look somewhat healthy, but yet you can still be an addict and look healthy for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. And
then when it catches you, it catches you. And so I went on to, went from smoking weed to drinking the cocaine to, even smoking it. And it was a desire to drink more than anything. And the alcoholism runs in the family. 6 out of 8 alcoholics. That's brutal. And for anybody that you talk to, they're going to say, that's impossible. 6 out of 8 kids. That poor mom. Because my dad died when I was 16. He died of cancer. He had lung cancer and brain cancer. And the second he died, it gave me a free pass to go run and gun. And so if
your mother was in survival mode.
My mom was in survival mode. She had to go back to school. She became a nurse's aide for down at the hospital in Bloomfield, West Penn Hospital.
So she's not around as much.
No.
Yeah.
And so I did what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted. I'd always take her home early. I never wanted to be a part of that lifestyle, but it was good for me, but it wasn't good enough for her. And so I would take her home and then go running for 2 days, 3 days. And, the next day she'd come over and I said, I'm never doing this again. And getting in fights downtown and just living a life that wasn't.
And calling me to pick him up.
Yeah, I'd call her. She was my go-to.
No, you call my dad.
Yeah, he let me in too. The relationship with her mom and dad were phenomenal. Nicest people in the world.
Well, Chris, when did your relationship start to get serious? You guys met so young. At Linton, I guess, maybe. Is that where you met, at Linton, at intermediate high school?
No, right when she was in 11th grade.
Okay, so at Penn Hills High School.
So, I'm sorry, what was your question?
When
did we start getting...
your relationship really start to turn into something more serious?
Well, I mean, we saw each other a lot. We were together a lot, except for, of course, late at night.
Same friends.
Yeah, we had the same friends. And I would go to the parties, some of the parties. I just didn't drink, and I didn't,
you didn't
do anything else.
Yeah, you didn't need it.
But I think it got serious when you accepted Christ, I think. Was pretty much when when I knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had talked about things, but never.
Well, did you guys go to church as young people?
We grew up both Catholic, and so we would go to St. Bart's, or my church was St. John's.
Once in
But-
a blue moon,
Yeah.
you know, just
Yeah.
like a lot of people from Penn Hills.
Yeah.
No, for a while there, you were going to St. Bart's a lot.
Okay, I can't remember
I
what I
think
did
you
yesterday.
were trying to repent from all the stuff you did the night before.
Well, here's the sad part, Lee, and this is a side note after we really get into it. A friend of mine, we would go past, and this may sound really ignorant, but it's part of the truth, it's the testimony, that we would stop at St. Bart's and I would go in and I would get the holy water sponge. And I knew I was going to have to create this negative lifestyle. And I would dab that sponge on my car and say, God, just keep me safe tonight. Just think of that, demented. You knew about God. You'd go in and grab that sponge, come out and touch your 75 Monte Carlo and say, keep me from an accident. But yet you were going out to get high, to drink, to get in a fight, whatever it was. How demented that was. And so addiction, it got really bad because I lived for it. I lived to go out to drink, get high, and get big. And steroids, cocaine, weed, they don't mix. Something has to happen. So if I look good at all, it started to become really sloppy looking. It became this mountain of flesh. I mean, it's still big and strong, but it didn't look real good. And, you know, working a lot trying to figure things.
Bricklayer.
As a bricklayer. I worked for an airtight company, which is an industrial sealant caulking company, as a bricklayer. And December 11th, 1987 was a Friday night. And I went to the gym after work, thinking I was going to call my boys and go out. Back then, no cell phones, right? And so I called everybody and nobody was there. So at the time, Gold's Gym on 286, then it became, I think, Diamonds. There was a poster on the wall. It was about the cutting edge ministry. It was at Pittsburgh East Full Gospel Church. It was about the strong guy and his wife breaking bats and all this strong stuff. And I didn't know, realistically, they were evangelists. So I ended up Pittsburgh East Full Gospel Church on a Friday night, and this guy goes off on, you know, breaking bats. There was a ton of people there, overflow rooms, and he was talking about God. I said, "You're an effort hypocrite and a liar." I said, "You're a steroid freak. Your wife's a steroid freak. Be gone." So I left. Went out, drank a little bit, fell asleep in my car. I remember exactly where it was. Got up, went to work Saturday downtown at the Fifth Avenue building, which used to be called, well, now it's the Highmark building. It used to be called Fifth Avenue Place. And Saturday afternoon, I still had drugs from Friday, didn't use, went and bought more drugs, went to Herman Stylegate and Penn Hills Shopping Center, bought some clothes, had my gold. Penn Hills people always have to have gold. She would always buy it for me. Like, it's the way it is.
I hear you, bro.
And it's, to this day, if you see some, we call them leftovers from Penn Hills, they dye their hair black and they got tons of gold. They're leftovers. So anyhow, I'm at this, I'm ready to go. Like and we used to buy cocaine in what's called 8 balls. It's a little piece of paper and they rolled up in an 8 ball. And I had 5 or 6 of them on me. I'm ready to go. And a good friend of mine became, well, we won't talk about him, but he became a drug dealer. It was down the hill for him. So anyhow, I got all these drugs on me. I got gold, ginormous. I'm wearing my purple shoes, my wrestling boots, purple. I went to this Pittsburgh East Full Gospel Church, Saturday night, December 12th, 1987. Again, I'm sitting in the last row, 3rd seat in. All of a sudden, I start sweating. I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. My stomach's churning. I said, uh-oh. I said, please tell my mom. Somebody tell my mom I love her. Like, I'm going down. Like, I'm having a heart attack.
Were you by yourself?
By myself. But the place was filled. And I'll never forget those brown chairs. And the guy was speaking. He said these exact words. He said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anybody hears my voice and opens the door, I'll come into you and dine with you and you with me. I'm like, oh, I'm going down. I'm like, here I go. All of a sudden, I feel prior to this tap on the back, he said, there's somebody sitting here right now who their stomach's churning, their heart's pumping. Feels like you're having a heart attack. I'm like, ah. He said it again, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anybody hears my voice and opens the door, I'll come into you and dine with you and you with me. I didn't know at the time that was the Holy Spirit touching my heart to say, hey, dum-dum, you want me to help you out? So I got up out of my chair. I felt that slap on my back, went right down to the middle, and I had tunnel vision till the end. And I saw some boys from the gym, and I won't mention their names, and they're all Penn Hills people. And I went forward, and as all I said, Lee, with these words, Dear Jesus, please come into my life, forgive me of my sins, and from this day forward, help me live for you. That's all he said. Wasn't no lights went off, wasn't no thing.
Wait, you heard that voice?
No, I said that.
You said that.
I said, Dear Jesus, please come into my life, forgive me of my sins, and from this day forward, help me live for you. I thought it was going to be some crazy experience. Turned around, got my, I believe it was my Toyota truck, 1987 Toyota truck, and I had a 75 Monte Carlo, which I still wish I had both of them. And all of a sudden I'm going home, and I'm like, man, well, something's wrong. So I took out one 8-ball, I'm dumping it out the window, threw it away. That's a lot of money. Another one, I think I had 6, because I dumped 5, I kept 1. So I went to my girlfriend's house, my wife, and I said, I just did this God thing, I got to go home. She said, okay. But I kept one 8-ball just in case this thing wasn't real. And that's called, unbeknownst to me at the time, that's referred to as one last run. So I go home, this is where it's going to get tricky for me. Went home to Penn Hills, I'm going to try to get through this without a tear. And I remember my mom put up with 6 alcoholics and addicts. Pulling the back driveway, went to the door, and I saw my mom crying at the counter. And I walked in the door, and she pushed 2 loaded syringes across the counter. And I said, Mom, I don't need those anymore. I met somebody. And she said, oh, you met Dan Judge, the guest speaker. And I said, no, Mom, I met somebody. And my mom's little Pentecostal hands went up in the air, and she said, oh, Father, thank you. And I'll never forget her little cracked hands, and she put them down on the counter. And I said, Mom, I'll take care of those syringes.
What were in the syringes?
One of them was Susnol, 4 different types of testosterone. And the big one was...
Oh, this is for bodybuilding
Well,
stuff.
It's called equipoise. It's for horses only. For 1,200-pound mares. For horses only.
What did you use them for?
Getting big.
Okay.
Just
and
a
so
minute.
she was helping you with that? Like showing you bringing the syringes to you?
Well, she pushed them across the counter and said, you forgot these.
Oh, okay.
Like I forgot them in the bathroom.
I see.
And I looked in her eye and it broke her heart. I just remember her eyes broke her heart. And when I said, no, Mom, I met somebody, she said, you met Jesus. And her hands went up, came down, and I said, Mom, I'll get rid of those syringes for you. The next day, and I should have brought it here, she had a little paperback Bible, and it was called The Living Word, and on the front cover it says, December 12th, 1987, today I met Jesus. That started the journey. I knew something was different, but it wasn't like, boom, you're done. I just knew something was different. And he delivered me from drugs, alcohol. I've never drank since then. Never had a drop. Never done illicit drugs. I've been operated on a couple of times. I've done a lot of pain pills. And I've been on Ativan from my son's accident. Just blew me away what happened to my son. But anyhow, I started this journey of not going out anymore. But prior to that, I asked my brother, Jim, who his story is unreal. He had over 300 stitches in his face. He's from Penn Hills, has 3 books out, blah, blah, blah. I said, Jim, is it wrong for me to go out to the nightclubs? And he looked at me and he said, he goes, don't you have Christ as your Savior? This new thing you have? He says, get on your knees before you go out and say, Lord, is this right for me to do? I'll never forget, I went out one last time. And when I went into this nightclub, it was called Confetti's out in Green Tree. Went in and looked, I'm like, are you serious? This is all life has to offer. All these drunks and alcoholics and addicts, that was me. Side note, in the bathroom, we used to have the guy in there had the, all the cologne, all that stuff, and gum and everything for you. He always had a out of order sign. And we'd give him 100 or 2, and we'd save that last stall for all the boys who go in there and do their cocaine. I'd put some in there for you, you'd put some in there for me. So we had the last stall out of order. You know what it was for. We thought we were so cool. It was the stupidest thing ever. But that's what we did. That's when you're caught up in that, you do things that you wish you would have never done. And people, anybody that would watch this know or talk back in the 80s, that's what you did. Now it becomes, so fast forward, I didn't know what to do. So I just started going to my mom's church, Pittsburgh East Full Gospel out in Plum, right? So I would go to a men's Bible study, I would go to a Bible study, I would go to church, and I didn't know what was going on. I just knew something was different. I couldn't get enough of God's word in me. I was reading that Bible every day, every night. I'm from Penn Hills, slow reading, slow processing, but I ate that thing. That little Bible wrote in it everything. I ate that. All of a sudden, I started volunteering. Someone said, you need to volunteer. I'm like, okay, that's the next step. I didn't realize these people in my life, some might call them sponsors or accountability partners. They said, Joe, you need to do something. And I started volunteering for the youth group, and I was so shy and backwards, I couldn't talk to anybody. So I would mix the drink mix. I would volunteer setting up the volleyball nets and then tear it down.
You were shy.
Oh, I couldn't look anybody in the eye.
You're not shy anymore.
Well, God has a gift. You know, when you surrender, God will do things in your life that you could never imagine.
And I want to stop you
Yep.
for a second, Chris. So, what are you seeing when this happens to Joe, Big Joe? What are you seeing on your end?
Well, I mean, there was obviously a huge change. I mean, he was never not nice and sweet and everything to me. Like when you said you were shy, he was, you know? So that's who Joe was back then, you know?
Were you shy?
No,
No. So, and you're still not shy.
no, no.
But he's made quite a transformation from that, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss the shy guy. No, but so, but the change, what did I see was we both started going, like I was right along with him in this. And that's why I always say I'm on a mission of mercy. I think God sent me a message without me really knowing that I was on a mission of mercy to stand by you. But the big change was, you know, not going out after work and not having those problems to get up the next morning and just doing a lot of fun things together. We both started going to the church, so we were trying to find friends because a lot of our friends thought we were whacked, which that's okay. I've always been a little bit. But
I still get it to this day. Joe, you a Jesus freak. Yep, whose freak are you? It's simple. It's that simple.
But it was good. I mean, we ended up finding friends, and
Oh, yeah.
and we got real involved in the church. But we still had all our friends. We still
have
he
those
has
stuff.
a big reunion with his buddies. They just had one this fall, so
It was phenomenal.
it's they you know.
Yeah. And so that's when you said your relationship, that's when it made a turn.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think we were always sort of a little bit on that path, but it was like almost like we grew up or something. You know, it was like, okay.
It's a big shift.
Yeah, like,
It's a big
okay,
shift.
instead of doing these drugs, maybe I'll save some money and look for a piece of property. And, you know, so that's the kind of stuff we did.
So when
then.
did you get married?
1990.
So that was like 3 years after that you got married.
Was that what it was? Yeah.
Because 87 is when you said you had this
Yeah.
moment.
Well, yeah, 3 years after we got married yeah.
Yeah. And so coming back to you, Joe, like you were shy, you were pushing the carts around, and you're in the church and you're trying to figure out how to be part of the church.
Yeah.
So what take us from there?
So I started volunteering with the youth group, and one youth pastor would leave, another one come in, and little by little I was breaking that shyness. I didn't understand through God's will, if you stay surrendered, first you'll stay sober. If you stay surrendered, then He will reveal Himself, what He wants you to do. We all have a set of fingerprints, every person in the world, and they're very specific for that purpose. And so I was volunteering at the youth group, and I don't know who told me, maybe it was Pastor Jim Flynn. He said, Joe, did you ever ask God for the map for your life? This is where it gets really neat. And I said, no. He goes, you might want to ask God for the map for your life. See, there's a general will for people in the church, and then there's specific wills for certain people.
So how would you describe that to someone that's just listening to this?
Well, I asked God for the map for my life, and this is the honest truth. This is how it all happened. Before youth group, right, we would go into a prayer room, and there was 3 of us. I won't mention the names, and we would just say, Father God, in Jesus' name, help the kids coming tonight. The ones that have problems, parent-wise, financial, please let us see that so we can help them. Any way we can, let us individually help a young person that comes here. So we're in this prayer room, and this guy, we're starting to pray, and he knocks on the table. This is where it gets really neat. And he said to me, he said, when you do what God's telling you to do, they're going to come like the wind. I'm like, phew, Penn Hills, testosterone, don't tell me something, right, without knowing me. I didn't know this guy from Adam. All of a sudden we're praying, he knocks on the table again. He said, when you do what God's telling you to do, they're going to come like the wind. Now I'm getting pissed off, like, oh, sorry. Now I'm getting mad, and I'm still from Penn Hills. I slip once in a while.
Sorry.
And the third time, he slams his hand on the table. He's looking me in the eye, and he writes on a napkin. He slides it over, and he said, when you do what God's telling you to do, they're going to come like the wind. A slow, steady wind. And on the napkin, it was Psalms 82, 3, 4, and 5. And I didn't bring my Bible, and I told you before I wrote on it, 10:195, this is the word that was given to me. And it says, vindicate the weak and the fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and the destitute, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them out of the hand of the wicked. They walk about in darkness, nor do they understand. And I had that napkin for years before it fell all apart. So in that, I'm still volunteering, and I said, God, I asked you for the map for my life. So I get up 4:15 every day for the last 40 years or whatever, and I'm up 3:15. I'm at my mom passed away, so I got the dining room table, which was a big to-do, and I'm sitting there, I'm saying, Lord, what do you want me to do with my life? I've asked you. So I'm doodling, and he said, I want you to start a 10-step program that helps young people between the age 15 through 25 with beginning stages, intermediate stages, and full-fledged addiction. I'm writing this. I'm like, yeah, right, what do you want me to call it? At the top of the paper, I put YOU. I'm like, what? He goes, no, Y.O.U. I said, what's that stand for? Young Overcomers United. Right then, it was another one of them God moments where I'm like, there was peace, but yet, I'm like, I can't do that. So I put the book away, put it away, and started going back to youth groups, and I'll never forget the young girl I asked. I said, if there was a program that did this, this, and this, and her name's Joey, I won't mention her last name. To this day, we're still in contact with her. She said, where's it at? You'd have 100 people. So for about a year, I kept telling my wife about this, and she goes, you just got to start this. You just got to start this. So we started in our home.
So she's very encouraging.
Yes. Without her, I wouldn't be here. And so we started in our home with one young man would come every Thursday. We would meet trying to help him with his, he was an alcoholic, and she would cook food. All of a sudden, a month later, we got 5, 6. We were there for, I believe, 18 months with 25 people coming every week. These are young people, some with ankle bracelets, some were adjudicated to us through magistrates, 3 different magistrates. And we're a non-licensed facility. But the results we were having, or the attracted to help young people, went rampant. And so our counsel was, get out of your house. You got too many people, you got convicted felons coming here, get out of your house. So we went to Pittsburgh East Full Gospel. They opened up doors to us. In that process, we went from 20 to 45 like that. We started helping young people out of East Pittsburgh, Pitcairn, Wilmerding, Wall, anything down to Turtle Creek, Monroeville, Penn Hills, Plum. They just kept coming. They just kept coming. They found out a program to help young people that are smoking a lot of weed, drinking, getting in trouble. Back then, this is our 30th year, back then it was easy for a magistrate to say, go get help. And then we'd sign papers for them. Today, it's a different world. It's totally different. So anyhow, we went from Pittsburgh East Full Gospel, then we were asked to leave there. I thought we were supposed to have our own facility, hats done, T-shirts done, full-blown nonprofit, making money, doing it full-time. We're still not doing it full-time, but we're still doing it. And so we believe in what God ordains, no man can stop. And are we willing to do all this for the one? And the answer is yes. So we went from Pittsburgh East Full Gospel Church to Cornerstone Ministries out in Expert, Murraysville. They give us keys to the building. It's a 25,000 square foot warehouse. It has a full gym. It has foosball, ping pong, pool tables. It has a meeting room of 500.
You have use of that.
They give me keys to the building. We could never afford it as a nonprofit. We've been there for 20, I don't know how many years. We're in our 30th year. And it's been a really, 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 really long road. But that's what God has for us to do.
So Chris, as he's on this dining room table and he's coming up with these plans, where are you in this process?
I guess,
Sleeping at that time.
yeah, 3 in the morning I was sleeping.
No, I don't mean that.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I was on board. I mean, we both worked with the youth. He was always attracted to kids that had these type of issues. We knew there was a problem. It's getting worse. I do want to reference one thing that we talked about way back when, like when Joe was talking about his family, and having their issues. When you talk about someone that's an alcoholic or a drug addict, it's not always what you think. It's not the person that's under the bridge with needles coming out of their arms. It's like families that love each other, that all work, that hold down jobs. We've had so many straight A students go through that had mega problems with addiction. So I want to shed a little light on that, because I think there's still people out there that perceive it as, gutter people or something, and they're not. I mean, some of our addicts that we deal with are the nicest people I've ever met, the biggest hearts. So I guess for me it was okay. I was fine with him doing that because it was driving him nuts not doing it. So I'm like, just do it. But Joe's the type of person that thinks that you need a van with your thing, your logo on it, you need all this stuff. And I'm like, just have him come to our house, So the whole time I was all for it. We've had a lot of sketchy times. We've had a lot of times of like.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you are dealing with addicts, though. I mean, so there can be issues. I remember.
I mean, dangerous.
Yes, the one night he decides he's feeling so bad for this young person. They're having problems in their home. He can't go back to his home or whatever. So Joe tells him he can sleep overnight at our house. And my kids were small. My kids grew up amongst all these addicts, and they're small. Puts us all, I think he put the dog too, we had a Rottweiler, in the bedroom and locked us in there because you don't know. And
We only did that once.
yeah, well,
He laid down the law. No
Yeah.
more.
or he's in the doghouse is what I told him, because we did have a doghouse. But that young person, we ended up finding a facility. Well, I heard Joe on the phone saying, "Hey, whatever it costs, I'll double mortgage my house." And I looked at him again and I said, "You may not even get the doghouse. He keeps that up, But so.
So you reel him in sometimes.
Oh yes, yes.
Thanks,
For
Lee.
sure.
Yes, she says.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Lee, I have to say this too. My mom, she would give me these little cue cards, and one of them on it said, "To those who unlock your compassion, to those you are assigned." And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. And there's passion, and then there's compassion. I didn't ask to have a heart for young addicts. That's what God made me to do. So I didn't ask, say, God, can you give me this passion for young addicts? No, He gave it to me. So to those who unlock my compassion is a young hurting person that's going to die. That's going to die. And God always opens up a door through a parent, through a loved one, through somebody else. And we've never advertised once. This is actually, we've never been without young people. I don't advertise. I mean, do we need money? Yeah, we can do all those things, but I never once went out there to advertise, say, hey, Young Overcomers United, we're here to help yours or help a loved one. No. Word of mouth. We've been doing it for 30 years, and it usually comes that I get a phone call middle of the night, or someone who calls somebody and says, hey, get Big Joe in here right now. And I don't say that with any type of pride. It was hard for me to be here today. On the way here, I was complaining. I said, I don't want to go see Lee. I'll go have breakfast with him. I don't want to do nothing. I like being behind the scenes, in the mud, helping. Nobody has to know. Nobody has to know. Look, give me a young hurting person. I'll take him out right now. We'll go get something to eat, and I will get a game plan with multiple other people to help you.
But we're not behind the scenes, and I'm glad
I
that you
know.
decided to come in front of the big cameras and the lights, camera, action. You know,
Next year movie, right?
right? This is a made-for-TV movie right here.
Yeah.
This is where it's starting. You know, Chris, I'm glad you said what you said, because I know many people who work, who are functioning alcoholics, functioning substance abusers, and they are nice people, but they have a serious problem. And a lot of bad things come from those problems, like marriages break up, like a lot of car accidents, all kinds of things. But that's a great point. They're not just people laying on the side of the road with a wine bottle. You know, these are people in the side. There's people, there's doctors, there's lawyers that have substance abuse problems. So I'm really glad you brought that up. I think it's a really important point. So now you've really started to blossom, so to speak, with this group to help young people. So how has that matured over the years?
Wow, I think it has to be said too that maturity, for us, it's called the sanctification. It's a lifelong process of becoming more like God. And in that, you become more like Him and what He wants you to do with your life. Right when we're doing really well, right? My daughter's 31 right now. At 18, she goes off to school, comes home first semester. You know, she starts smoking dope and having sex. She comes home and says, I'm pregnant. I said, I'm going to kill both of you. Right after that, my
You
son,
said that. Big
No,
Joe
that
said
was-
that.
Joey was first.
Was Joey first? Oh, right before that, our son, 16, he was 16 at the time, was in a severe accident in Murraysville. He had 27 bleeds on the brain, 2 collapsed lungs, snapbacks. He wasn't going to make it. So we get a phone call. I'm going to shorten this up, get a phone call from, I went out looking for him, and the whole story is a book on its own, but she called me and said, they just called, he's in life flight, get down to Allegheny General. So we get down to Allegheny General, and this, you asked, how is it progressing? Well, when you're doing something for the kingdom of God, you better, somebody better tell you, you better put your seatbelt on. Because if hell can't get to you and your wife, it's coming to you through your kids. It's that simple. So my sons, we get down to Allegheny General, and they wouldn't let us go back there. They set us down in a room and said, before you go back there's some things we got to talk about. And we finally get back into the trauma unit, and I said, that's not my son. That's not my son. He's laying there, that kid's dead. He's on a 100% breathing machine. And I'm like, so me, her, and my daughter stand there, and
But it was your son.
it was her son. I mean, he looked good. It just, all the injuries were internal, you know, aspirated, 2 collapsed lungs, and
What was going through your mind, Chris, at that time?
same thing.
This. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard when you go through those things. You know, we talked to the neurosurgeon, and he said if he makes it, he'll probably be a vegetable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, what parent wants to hear that? Like,
Yeah.
none. So,
But you know what? God was so good. They would say, okay, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. He would do 2 steps forward.
Prior to that, when we were getting there, 3 of us, what do you say? And the miracle was, I said these exact words. Hell, is that all you got? You're going to try to take my son with a little bit of get high and drink. He's going to walk again. He's going to talk again. He's going to fish again. After those big proud papa moments, right? We all hit the floor. We didn't know what to do. Your son's laying there. He's on a 100% breathing machine. The breathing machine's going, and his legs had those big tubes on to keep the circulation going in and out.
unimaginable.
His head was wrapped.
It was brutal.
Unimaginable. Yeah.
No.
So you asked how we progressed in the ministry. Well, all along ministry, there's always been hurdles and roads, but we never gave up. We never missed a meeting. We knew that what God calls you to do, no man can stop. What God ordains, no man can stop. So we knew this was a hurdle. We knew we were going to get through it. We knew all these things, right? We can talk about it now, but back then we functioned highly in chaos. When there's dysfunction, put us in, coach. We're in. We'll bring peace to the situation. We'll give a game plan. We'll get you help. So going through that, we've been through it ourselves. You know, and to your daughter to come home who was loving the Lord, involved in 3 different youth groups, to come home from first semester and said, Dad, I'm pregnant. Could you imagine that?
That's another.
That's brutal.
Another one.
But the two of the biggest blessings in our lives is our grandson, who's 12, who lives with us. He's been one of the catalysts that kept everything together. And my son's accident, who right now he's known throughout the world and for fly fishing. That story is unbelievable. But he made it. He's on his own journey.
Tell him we want him here, Joe.
I told him that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. And he said, okay, Dad. I said, when are you coming home? He said, oh, he's in Mexico right now. And then he goes back out west to guide there. And he said, I don't know, maybe end of March, April. I said, okay. And
Let me know.
His story is phenomenal.
Okay, that's great.
But God, in that, the ministry never stopped. Because when you're doing something that's ordained, you always have good volunteers. People always want to help. People always want to give. Lee, can I say this too, that the hardest part for me in anything we've done in 30 years, I couldn't ask you for a penny. I don't know how to ask people for anything. And that's a detriment. It's almost prideful. But here's the neat part.
I have that same problem, but go ahead.
But here's the really cool, neat, whatever you want to call it, is that when we get before someone who just wants to hear the story, they give. They give. And I'm like, thanks. Would we want to be doing it full time? We're doing it full time with no pay right now. So could we do it full time? Yeah, we would help more people. So the ministry is still going strong. We have a 10-week curriculum that's second to none, being copyrighted right now. It'll take you through the beginning stages, intermediate stages, full-fledged addiction and recovery. It'll get you, it's just incredible, 10-week, 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time.
Who teaches it?
I do, and a young lady who developed it for us, she can teach it also. But it's meant to do on your own, by yourself, with somebody else, with your sponsor. In the recovery world, everybody knows what a sponsor is. So a sponsor, accountability partner, it's so basic. It's a workbook. And it's meant for you to fill out 1 day at a time, and it gets you on the path of different habits. And it'll lead you to Christ. It'll put you involved in a church. It'll get you where you need to be. So that's been my 30 years of notes.
Yeah.
Finally came into fruition with the 10 steps being actually on paper now. We would work the 10 steps all the time, and I would live it in front of people and teach them one at a time. And the side note, we would take, we still do. I'll take young addicts to New York, teach them how to fly fish. She'll take the females to the beach if there's enough of them on off season. And it's just all about learning to live again without using and abusing, and they love it.
Yeah, that's great. So, Chris, I mean, as this is all happening, I mean, seeing your son in an emergency room in that stage, the only thing you can do is pray, because it's out of your control. And your daughter comes home pregnant. So, like, how did that affect you when she came home pregnant?
Well, now mind you, Joey's accident was in November. Jesse tells us maybe March or April. It was in the springtime. So they're not even a year apart of this. And Joey was still, because he had a long road. He was in the hospital, and then he had to go to the Children's Institute. Joe took off 8 months of work to just be there for him.
Every day.
And then...
In Squirrel Hill? Is that where it is? Yeah.
Yeah. The children's, not the children's home, but it's...
Children's Institute.
It's a little
Children's
different
Institute.
now, though, than it was back then, because he literally stayed there.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was still, he was getting therapy, cognitive therapy, physical therapy, all,
5 hours a day.
So it was work. It was hard, but he was alive. And then actually my daughter told him before she told us about being pregnant. And she called and said, me and, her boyfriend at that time want to come down and talk to you. And I looked at my son and I'm like, she's pregnant. And he said.
So it was like women's intuition, mother's intuition.
Yeah, we do have that.
Yeah.
It is true.
There's
I
a
think.
thing like that. Yeah.
But, I think because we worked with people, young people that had problems. I think it helped. I really do think it helped.
Strengthens your faith.
You know,
helped with her being pregnant and your son.
oh yeah, definitely. Because you know what? God has a plan. And
He got it through us.
And
He
so
did.
she lived with you, and
she still lives with us.
so the whole
Kicking her
time with her baby.
No, she did have a time where we didn't force the marriage thing on them, but her and Declan's dad lived together for a while and tried to make it work, but it just didn't. And that's okay, you know. They never got married, Declan, you know, so they live with us, and I love it. I do. I mean,
He can stay. She got to go.
no, she's great. She has a great job, a great boyfriend.
Yeah, she's awesome.
But the biggest thing is, besides her unbelievable walk with the Lord, with both of my children, love the Lord and walk with them. And Joey texts Joe every morning a scripture and what he wants him and Dad to pray about. And Jesse, the same thing. And I couldn't be more proud of my kids. And she is an unbelievable mom, maybe to a fault.
But there were some dark times there because they went out running and gunning.
Oh, yeah.
They did their own thing. My son was a severe alcoholic and addict.
Yeah.
He's been sober now for 3.5 years. My daughter was out smoking dope every day, having sex. So when we say that, we're very open. We're an open book. We knew at a young age, they've accepted Christ at a real young age, that hell just tries to beat you up in the family.
So they accepted that, but then as teenagers, they went out and
Yeah.
did their thing,
Yeah, they went
just like you did your thing.
just like the book
They-
said.
Yeah.
Prodigals, they both went.
They both had to take after their dad. Why they couldn't have took after me, Lee? I don't
It's the
know.
wait a second. Wait,
Why
if you would
could
meet
they
them,
not drink?
wait, if you
No,
would meet
you're
them,
the
they're-
role model.
You would say, hey, there's somebody in the bloodline that's from Penn Hills. Their personality. Look, it's my daughter. She will tell you just the way it is, and she's skinny. She's not even 100 pounds.
Really?
She's the loudest thing you ever
She's
meet, but
skinny.
guess what? You will love her. She's awesome. And then my son, he's the real deal. But
He's
you know,
beyond
he lives
awesome.
with a TBI, traumatic brain injury, and
For the
so
rest
on
of his life.
the
I
bleeds.
was going to ask, like, what are the repercussions from going through something so horrendous?
Well, for him, it's the rest of his life. It happened when he was 16 years old. They say the male brain doesn't develop till it's 25. They said his won't develop till he's 30. He's going to be 30 this year. And we have watched, and just like you had said, you know, whether you're going to counseling, grief counseling, or whatever, we didn't know because whether he did it, whether he faked it, whether he did so good as, you know, we thought he was good. We didn't understand what brain injuries, we're still learning about brain injuries, lifelong. Just as you have a set of fingerprints, no two brain injuries are the same. None, zero. And to even say he had over 20 bleeds on her brain, people are like, no way, never happened. But I'll never forget, you know, down at Children's Institute, when I won't mention her name, the doctor looked at the new scan, and she said, this isn't right. She said the body absorbed all the bleeds. Like lit up like a Christmas tree down at AGH. And when we got a couple months later, another brain scan, she goes, look, the body's absorbing all those bleeds.
Which it doesn't normally do.
It doesn't do, no. You can have one bleed and be paralyzed the rest of your life.
Wow.
He's a walking miracle.
That is amazing.
Don't get me wrong, he has some hurdles. You know, short-term memory loss, fatty liver disease. Now the hard one for him is narcolepsy. He developed a narcolepsy where he goes into a REM sleep within 15 seconds. Very dangerous.
Wow.
But he's an overcomer. You'd never know it. You'd see a trach scar right here, 2 on his ribs where they had to drain his lungs. But you'd never know, like,
And he's achieved some things, hasn't he?
he's an overcomer.
Actually, in your area, he opened up your Orvis store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Orvis took him
And
under his wing.
that's
And
fishing.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, fishing and bird shooting and
Clothing.
a lot
It's
of
an outdoor
clothing.
company.
But they did 2 short films on him, and his film was in the
Telluride.
the Mountain Film Festival in Telluride.
That was pretty cool.
They presented that on
So
screen.
what does he do,
Everybody-
Chris?
What's he do?
Yeah.
He's a professional fly fishing guide. He actually was a 3-sport honors with distinction, planning on
At
West
Franklin
Point.
Regional.
Yeah,
He was trying to go to West Point.
yes. But it changed, and he always fished with his dad, so he ended up getting a hold of Orvis and saying, hey, my life's changed a little, just wanted to ask you guys,
Actually, he sent a picture of him in the trauma. I have some pictures of him in the trauma unit. They don't look real good. And he sent it to Orvis and said, hey, can you help me? I want to become a fly fishing guide. And I have to mention this name, Tom Rosenbaum. He's been with Orvis 40 years, salt of the earth. He said, I'm going to help you with your aspirations. So Orvis, the Orvis family, they took Joey and I to Montana 2 years in a row. It was called the Fly Fishing Guide Rendezvous. I'm from Penn Hills. I have no idea what Montana's like. I have no idea what fly fishing is like. I have nothing, zero. So I go there like, Big Joe's like, I'm not fitting in here. And they took him under their wings. Mm-hmm. And the blessing is part of our story in this is his story. And so his healing process, we know that he's saved by God and being healed by God, but what has helped him the most is being on the water. When he's on the water fly fishing, it's money. You just step back and say, he was meant to do this. I mean, there's several guides who are like that. Not a lot. And everybody wants to be a guide, but he's meant to do this. Mm. But he's sharing his faith. He's in Mexico right now, and they honed him. And when I say honed him, they recruited him, and he's coming back out west. He's just, he loves the Lord. His testimonies, his story is better than mine. He was pronounced dead, and he's alive and doing really well. He's an overcomer.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So you had said something to me prior that you go, when someone calls you, you go. Like, we need you to be over here, you go, and for interventions.
Yeah.
And one thing you said to me was that interventions are not like you see on TV. And so I want you to explain that.
Well, it started a while ago. We do a lot of in-home interventions. And sometimes on TV, when they show intervention, there'd be a van outside, there'd be a professional counselor come in, all the books, and the family sitting around. And they talk them into getting in the van, they show them off to rehab. Well, we found out the hard way, an intervention to us in trying to help somebody doesn't look like that. It does not. So the phone will ring through word of mouth, through my wife, and say, hey man, can you have Big Joe come in the house? We're having problems. And so my wife would get on the horn with another organization we run called P3, Parents Praying for Parents. And these parents have all gone through it. So my wife would say, hey, Joe's going over wherever. We go all over and pray for him going into this home.
You go to the South Hills?
We do.
Okay.
We've been all over.
Okay. We've had them as far as
Butler,
Meadville.
Butler.
They'd come every week down from Meadville, Robinson Township.
You asked a very specific question.
So when Big Joe comes in for an intervention, what do you do?
Well, first, you better understand, you better have those prayer warriors ushering you in, because what people, unbeknownst to people, that you're battling hell. And every single addict and drunk will tell you this, that the demons, they'll mention, they don't even know what they're talking about, the demons. I'm chained up, can't get out. The demons of hell, they're chasing me. You know, the demons of alcoholism, the spirit this. And so you have to understand, those are real. Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if you're in a room talking to someone saying, I can't stop drinking, you better know why. There's a spiritual component to this. And so what they do, they usher me in on the spiritual end. And when I walk into a home, to be honest with you, the first person I look for is a grandma. First person, because usually, because our life's ordained, there's usually a praying person in that family that gets to us. And I'll look around the room, and most of the time there's 5 to 10 people. And I'm like, Grandma, or I'll ask the question, if the grandma's not there, who in here has been praying for this moment? Minimum, one person will say me. And now I know, as you go into a room, now you know who's on your side, what's really happening here. And usually, it goes pretty good. When I say that means me getting out of the house safe, there's a game plan. But it doesn't mean the person.
What does it mean to be good in an intervention?
Means that you break the ice. People, first thing I say is I have a brash personality.
You do?
I'm going home. I'm going home when I leave here. So what's said here you need to do this, this, and this. But in that, being we've been doing it for so long, you know who else is in that room that has a problem, whether drinking or using. So I'll look at the grandma who's been praying first. Then I'll look at the person who has the problem, and I will ask them right to their face, how many other people in this room have a problem? And their eyes get big, and they're like, anywhere from 1 to 3.
Because you know, because of
you
how
know.
many brothers and sisters
And
you
what
have.
that does, it breaks the ice. I just build a relationship not only to the praying grandma, whoever's there, but to that person in trouble. Right there, look, how do I say this? I'm a very good manipulator, and it's called conversation manipulation. Sometimes it can be very positive, sometimes it can be bad. I could ask you a question so you would ask me my opinion. If I wanted to give you my opinion without giving it to you, I could manipulate the conversation so you would ask me. It's demented, but it's real. And see, you have to know everything about yourself, positives, negatives. And so I use that to a positive to find out, to build that relationship with that young person. And 9 out of 10 times it works. So what's it look like leaving there? A lot of information. A lot of times just breaking the ice to give them information. And then we embrace other moms and dads who have gone through this and give them, we never leave there without giving them options. Never. Because these other parents that have lost a kid, lost 2 kids, they'll know exactly what to say or what not to say. So I will say, okay, you can call here. We have a parents coming here. Here's different rehabs. That was much easier 15 years ago. Today, it's brutal.
What do you mean? Well, how's it changed? In what way?
The big 15 years ago, this is our 30th year, even 15, 20 years ago, the magistrates had more of the parents on board. And so the parents would call magistrates, hey, do whatever you can to get my kid help. So the magistrates would adjudicate kids to us, young people. I don't say kids are baby goats, but younger people. And they would come to us, we'd sign papers for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and go to the magistrate and say, this, we did this, this, and this.
Papers for that kid to
Correct.
come and be part of your program.
Be part of some program,
Okay.
along with judicial issues also. But now, to be honest with you, because it's so accepted, the drugs and alcohol are so accepted in our society, and it's a slap on the wrist as far as kids getting in trouble. It's just a nightmare for parents. But parents are some of the issue, but the police officers, their hands are tied now too. If a kid gets caught with a bag of weed and maybe even a little bag, they just take it, slap on the hand, see you later, don't do it again. Before, you'd get in a lot of trouble. You'd go through this process, and no, it's society. And so it's part of the wokeness in society. If it feels good, do it. It doesn't have a problem. We all did it when we were young. They'll grow out of it. No, you grow into this. You don't grow out of it. I've never seen anybody grow out of this. You grow into it. And addiction starts somewhere. And I think I told you this. And we do some speaking, and someone always asks the question, Big Joe, where's addiction start? It starts the very first time you say yes when you know you should have said no. That's where it starts.
That was at Penn Aqua.
That was at Penn Aqua Swim Club in Penn Hills. I knew to say no. I knew it, but I did it anyhow.
But yet your wife never did it.
Correct, because she's strong.
It's amazing.
I think she's known the Lord since she was little. She never needed it. Her self-worth, see, there's a difference between self-worth and self-esteem. I never had either. So my self-worth came in steroids. My self-esteem came in, getting high. Because when I got high and drank and did cocaine, I was chatterbox.
How lucky are you to have your wife?
Beyond comprehension. To be honest with you, I say this all the time, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but if she goes before me, I'm taking a bridge. I can't live without her. She's the backbone not only of the ministry, she's the backbone of the family. When the phone rings, she says, go. We're on vacation, the phone rings. My kids want to throw the phone out the window, and she'll say, go, go. And so when the phone rings, she knows the gift God's given us. I'm the thumb on the hand, but without her, the thumb on the hand doesn't do anything.
So, Chris, when you hear that, what's it make you feel?
When I hear what he just said,
Yes.
show me the money. No, I'm just teasing. Sorry.
That's funny. That's funny.
I know.
See, that's Penn Hills humor.
Wait a second. Yeah, show me the
We're
money.
in the South Hills.
Holy cow. Yeah, South Hills got money.
Oh,
We don't.
sorry.
Show me the money.
I'm teasing.
No, that was
You know,
good.
all those nice things he's saying, meaning not money, dollar
Flowers.
signs, like, oh, the foot rub, the massage, are you going to do the dishes? Do
Look
you know
here.
what the dishes are?
I'm like a king at home.
Yeah,
I don't do dishes. I don't do clothes. She don't let
How'd
me
you
cook.
get this? How did you get this, Joe?
It's a gift.
No. He got
It's
it
a gift. Look.
But my mother was, my mother, when my parents got older, my mother tied my dad's shoes. So that's just what we learned. You know what I mean? Like, we go somewhere, I make
You
his
take
plate.
care of your man.
Yeah, but it wasn't out of-
It's
just so you
just
know.
not man, it's family.
You take care of your family.
Just remember what
Okay,
she
I
said,
get it.
though. Her parents are from Europe. So out of 7 sisters, when it was time to eat, the dad did nothing. The food was there. Everything was. It was just what they did. It wasn't serving out of any type of demeanor. It wasn't mean. It was what they did. So she has that. So the first time over the house, way back when, she brought me. It was at Easter at one of my sister's house, and she brought me my food. I didn't expect it. I didn't know anything. And guess what? To this day, she'll say, "Go sit down."
I mean, do you have even the slightest bit of comprehension how lucky you are?
Yes.
That's
Keep
good.
telling him, Lee. Just keep telling him.
Wait a second.
That sounds good.
Wait a sec. Yes, and I've never once abused it or thought I deserved it. It's ignorant not to let her do it. That's the mentality from 7 sisters. That if we wouldn't let her do it, why? I'll go out somewhere to eat with somebody. I'll call her and say, "Here, look at the menu. Tell me what I want to eat." She knows me better than
I
myself.
go online and look at the menu and tell him.
It's easy. Look, Lee.
I mean, I love it, because there's not a lot. It's hard to be happily married, and it's hard. Marriage is hard. Relationships are hard.
Sure.
You guys are together for 45 years, and to hear this, it's kind of inspirational that it can happen. It can happen.
It does get a little old.
We'll talk about, what do you mean by that, Chris?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just teasing. Well, I was a stay-at-home mom when my kids were growing up. So of course you feel like, oh, okay, well, you're not contributing financially anymore. So make sure the house is nice, get everything ready. I mean, we would do all kinds of party things. We'd put things in the garage for him to get his bathing suit on, and we'd have a picnic with
She's awesome.
yeah, we would do, things like that. But then I did go back to work eventually. So it's a little
I don't
harder
know what I'd do
now.
without her, to
Plus
be honest
I'm
with you.
older
So would you say you guys are old school?
What
to
does
a
it-
degree. I mean, I think we're old school in, I wouldn't even say that it's old school. I think it's what you learned from your parents.
So old school.
But
But trying to
Your
adapt
parents
to.
were old school,
Yeah, but here's that's not a problem. That I have to accept the younger ways of thinking. Because if we don't adapt to that, we will never reach them.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Especially in the recovery world.
Right.
Because how easy, and I told you before, it's called free delivery. The app's on a phone. I could call right now. And in 10 minutes, I'll have something knocking on the door. It's called free delivery. It's that simple, that easy. You don't have to go look for it. You don't have to. It's that simple. And it's so dangerous. But until older people will never understand that. They'll never understand how easy
Yeah.
it is for people to seek euphoria.
Yeah, you have to stay up with the times for sure.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me.
I mean, it's hard. I get it, but it's just, things change.
They got me a new iPhone. I like my old Droid better.
he cries about it, and we live in a completely different world than, say 20, 30 years ago. I mean, we're so selfish, including myself.
What do you mean? What do you mean
I
by
think
that?
we're just selfish. I don't know. I think when we got married and everything, you kind of think in your head, oh, well, we have a have a nicer home than our parents did. You know, we want to do this that our parents never were able to do. And I think we want everything now that,
But
I mean, as a society, as a whole, and so that makes us very selfish, which makes us like, oh, okay, well, my kid's doing bad. I tried all these things. I'm tired. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of parents don't give up. I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm not saying that at all. But we live in a society, and we live in a society where everything's okay. I mean, remember back when we were growing up, Sundays nothing was open, and now you have alcohol in the sheets.
it's crazy. But you know,
It's
so
a
many
lot different.
points though. We live our life by the 1440 principle, Lee. There's 1,440 minutes in every day for every person. How many are we willing to give of our own time that we will never get back to make someone a better person? And we live by that. We live by the 1440 principle. And just think of that for a second. Everybody has the same amount of time. How much are you willing to give somebody of your time to make them a better person? And the answer is, send me, Lord. Send me, whatever it takes. I'm going to plant a seed of hope in somebody today.
And that's one thing about YOU is we're on this journey with them through, you know, you can go into a rehab, and I'm all for them. I'm not saying I'm not. But with us, we're going to go the whole way until you can really make it on your own out there.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was reading where just regular rehabs, the success rate's not very high.
No.
And so I imagine you know this. And so what are you doing that's different? Well, how would you say it? Or is that what you do? Or
Well,
what's your difference? What's your secret sauce?
The secret sauce is, there's no secret. It's having faith in Jesus. When you take any life and lead them to that spot where they accept it or they don't accept it. Not everybody that comes to us accepts Christ. Not everybody that comes to us, we've been to 22 funeral homes, 23 funeral homes. So not everybody's a huge success story. You know, people say deem success. I deem success by planting a seed of hope in somebody. Then when we see them again, water that seed of hope. And sooner or later, someone's going to come and harvest that seed of hope. So what does it look like? What do we have the secret sauce? We accept everybody for who they are, where they're at, where they've come from. We don't ask anybody to change. We come right alongside their rehabs, their accountability partners, their sponsors. We come right alongside of them. And we're just another tool in their tool belt. But we understand how this works. And in what you said, yeah, rehabs don't have a lot of success long term.
Yeah, it's not a high success
No.
rate.
But we need them because it's a stepping stone for people to get clean.
Right.
Everything happens by the renewing of the mind. And so if you can get someone clean for 30, 60, 90 days, their mind cleans up a little bit. Then you can really start talking to them. Faith-based rehabs, faith-based programs have a much higher success rate. Why is that? And you have to keep it stupid simple. When you change the foundation of life, then you can rebuild. The foundation of life is through foundation in Christ, a relationship with Him. I don't care whether you're Jewish, Presbyterian, it doesn't matter. It's a relationship with God. Once you do that wherever you're at, then you can start rebuilding. And most young people, to be honest with you, Lee, what we encounter, most of the young people coming to us have been in and out of 3, 4, 5 rehabs, overdosed 2, 3, 4 times. And when we share the good news, the gospel, just like me and you sitting there, you don't have to go to church. You don't have to do all these things. That's a byproduct. You just got to tell them Jesus loves you. He has a plan for your life. You have a set of fingerprints. Do you want Him to help you change? Not one of them ever said no.
You know, I want to tell you a story, and I want your reaction to this
Okay.
story. So my brother Eddie, very successful baseball player, was on his way to play in the major leagues, went to University of South Carolina. During his senior graduation party at our house, there's a guy by the name of Dick Shorthouse, who is well known out in the Presbyterian world in Penn Hills. He's a preacher, pastor, whatever he does, very, very involved in the Presbyterian side of Penn Hills churches. And so he is a a people person. I mean, he is up and talk. He's kissing babies, shaking hands.
Yeah.
He knows everybody. Everybody loves him. He has a great personality. Well, his wife was with him at the party, at my brother's party, and she's standing in the background. And you know, I have this heart when I see people that are not like being tended to. I tend to kind of go to them. And so that what happened, and I went over to see Mrs. Shorthouse. And I said, you know, what's it like being married to someone like Dick? And she goes, well, you know, he's a people person, he's an extrovert, da, 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 da. And I said, well, you're not that? She goes, no, I'm more introverted, I'm more behind the scenes. And I said, so how does this all work? And she said to me, and I didn't understand it at the time. I was young. I didn't understand this. She says, you know what, Lee? I pray for people that their hearts soften up enough to receive God. And I wasn't even that spiritual at the time. I really wasn't at all. It wasn't until my 40s. But like, I remembered those words. Like they were just prophetic.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, I run into some health problems. And what am I doing? My heart softens, and now I'm ready to talk. Now I'm ready to go. You know, and so what's the old saying? There's no atheist in a foxhole. And so I believe that so much. And you guys say you're faith-based, you know, in helping to rehab people that are addicted. And so when you hear that story, what's your reaction to, like, because you're preaching what your faith is to these people, but they don't all have that, just like you said.
Sure.
And so when you hear this story, I'll start with you, Chris. What is your reaction to that based on what you guys do?
What, that she's behind the scenes praying that they would soften their hearts?
Yes.
I guess we'd go back to what Joe said from the very beginning. We all have our own fingerprints. So obviously that was her fingerprint. That's what God wanted her to do. She holds up her husband by praying for those that he's going to speak with so that they'll soften their heart. Whatever they hear from him, obviously it's God-driven, would go into their hearts. So,
do you identify with her? No. So,
I mean, yes, to a degree, because I'm always praying.
But you're not an introvert.
No, I'm not. I don't know if you noticed that. No, but okay. So, how I am is I used to go into the meetings with Joe because there's a separate room you go into when you're having your meeting, but we feed them every week. So my end is to be able to make sure, okay, do we have food? Do I have to cook stuff? We have, you know, a volunteer couple. He's 87. I won't say Kathy's age on camera, but anyway.
I've been volunteering for 28 years.
Yeah, and they, you know, serve so much and make so many meals. So, you know, I'm doing that end of it. I'm doing, you know, is it somebody's birthday? Is it a special day for someone? And then also they'll come into the kitchen and I'm the one that says, how are you doing? Are you screwing up? You know, like I'll just be.
And they love it.
And then I joke with them, you know what I mean? And because after every meeting that we have, which is our meetings are on Thursday, Joe comes home, he sits in his chair, I sit in my same place on the couch, and we discuss the night. Who did what? How's he doing? What's going on? Did you know? That kind of stuff. So I know what pretty much everything is that's going on. And there's so many phone calls during the week. So we're always talking about, okay, who's doing, you know, what's going on? Did you know this? And so called me and, you know, he's doing real bad. So I think that's her fingerprint. Mine's just a little different. I'm like the servant prayer, but I'm also like the one that gives them lip.
Yeah, she's very, very
You're feeding
vital.
them.
She takes care of everybody. I mean, then she's called Gan, G-A-N, by our grandson. So some people in groups say, hey, Gan, what's for to eat? You know, she has a really neat relationship with these young people. It's almost like they're not their grandma, but mom, grandma slash
Let's
somebody who
say
cares.
aunt. I'll be an aunt. I don't want to be their mom.
But you know, first of all, Dick Shorthouse, that's my buddy.
Well, so that's what I want to ask. So you hear this Dick Shorthouse story and Mrs. Shorthouse, and I think she might be shocked to hear that many, many, many years later, we're sitting in this television studio and we're talking about what she said to me very quietly, that I just pray for people their hearts soften so that they can receive God. And I'm like, that didn't mean that much to me, but it meant enough to at least remember it.
Sure.
And then I lived it. And so when you hear that story, who do you identify with in that story? Or what's your reaction to this story that I tell?
Well, first, we know Dick Shorthouse, so props to you, Mr. Shorthouse. I know his grandson
passed.
loves
Terrific.
kids.
Terrific.
I should back up by saying, too, when those interventions that we have to, it's called fingerprinting, that you have to know the fingerprints of somebody, where they're from, backgrounds, mom and dad divorce, everything about them before you can make any assumptions or any game plan. So we call it fingerprinting. It goes along with the in-home interventions. So if you don't fingerprint somebody and really know who they are and what they're doing, schools, brother, sister, blended family, not blended family, who's in it, other addictions in the family, you really can't help them. So you ask the question, what do I think about the Shorthouses? That's part of our fingerprinting. I'm not going to share the good news, the gospel with you till I build a relationship with you. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to Bible thump you. So many times people have this preconceived notion of going to a faith-based rehab or faith-based meeting that someone's going to Bible thump you. No. If you don't want to listen to it, I'm not going to cast a pearl among the swine.
That's a real term, for real.
Sure.
Bible thump.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I first got saved, and it happened to me, I Bible thumped people. I didn't know how to share this good thing. It was so radical. You know, they knew Big Joey as, you know, steroid freak, cocaine freak, everything. And to nothing, they're really skeptical. Like, oh, this is going to last 6 months. But we're 30 years into it. So you asked a question about the Shorthouse, Mrs. Shorthouse. One of my prayers in the morning goes along with hers, that let me see the needs of others before the wants of myself. And if you think about that, when you see the needs of others before the wants of yourself, they're usually receptive to the good news, usually. And so be careful what you pray for. You ever hear that saying, be careful what you pray for? One of my favorites is, create in me a clean heart, O God, renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me from thy presence, do not take the Holy Spirit from me, but restore to me the joy of thy salvation, and sustain with me a willing spirit. Then I will teach transgressors thy ways, and sinners will be converted unto thee. It's a command, it's a promise, it's prophetic. And so I pray that every day. Let me see the needs of others before the wants of myself, and then create me a clean heart, so I may see that softened heart. I may see that person in need. Give me the words to speak. Sometimes it's, hey, I'll buy you a Turner's iced tea. Sometimes it's, hey, you got to stop now, or you're gonna. But again, not every time. Again, we've been to a lot of funeral homes, so that keeps me in check. Did we really plant that seed of hope? Did we really encourage that? Are we really doing our part in the fingerprinting? Or is it all just, you know, people say nonprofit, you found a nonprofit. Yeah, you make more money in a day than I make in a year as a nonprofit, right? We are nonprofit. But we give because young people, whether they're out running and gunning, they respect when people give. They respect you when they know you've been there, you've done that, you're not getting paid for it. There's such an overwhelming respect, especially for her and our volunteers. They just love them when they come in and see these people. Why do you give? Because that's what we're supposed to do. There's a whole lot in between there, but there's so much of 30 years going into.
What does your nonprofit need?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking that. We try to utilize other people's gifts. For instance, Cornerstone Ministries, I always thought in our original vision of Young Overcomers United was to have a warehouse, to call it our own. But if someone else is willing to donate that to us, right, I don't have to forfeit $1 million building. What do we need? I can't even ask you. I mean, we need money. And so somebody said, what would you do? I always go through this in my mind. If you were a multi-millionaire and a billionaire and you were a philanthropist and you said, if I give you $1 million, what would you do with it? It's not what I would do with it, it's what we wouldn't do with it. Nobody would have exorbitant salaries. You know, a lot of nonprofits have people making millions of dollars, which that's fine for them. We would not have exorbitant salaries. We would make sure we would have to hire a couple people to do what we do on a, I don't say better scale, we do it pretty good. It would be more of it. And I don't know how that's possible, being that, you know, we put 20 to 30 hours a week on top of working full time. So to do it full time would be, you'd help a lot more people. So where'd that money go? I think finally some salaries to do it full time. If we had to go brick and mortar, that would be a lot of money. But we believe in utilizing. Everyone else wants to volunteer. Hey, you want to use the gym? Here's keys to the building.
Yeah.
Do you want? What else do you need? We're trying to get the social media aspect going. That costs money a month. We have a very small budget. Do we want to do it full time? Yeah, that was the goal 30 years ago.
It's still the goal. He'll never.
I'll do it till then.
He'll never retire. I mean, he's helped. I can remember helping him helping a 74-year-old woman because she was on painkillers and now she was on the street trying to get it because the opioid crisis came in and all the doctors quit giving pain pills because they were afraid that someone would get hooked. So he's never going to quit. So I would say full time. Or having people on the payroll would definitely be it. But things that we like to do is we like to have money there to be able to possibly send someone to a rehab that needs to go that can't afford it. Or, you know, we'll work with CSI or SSI, excuse me, and see what they can get. But, you know, if we have to kick in money, we'd like to be able to, some of the young people that go through that might be from a lower income family, maybe have some type of scholarship fund for them. Scholarship can go in a lot of different ways. We'd like opportunities to be able to take some of these young people, maybe Joe take them, or Joe and I would go to look at some of these rehabs that are out of state that we've dealt with but have never gone to. It's important to look at the facilities and what, you know, where we're sending people. That's another thing. There's a lot of activities that we can't do because we can't afford them, but we do the best we can with what we have.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is, people would watch this show. You can find it on YouTube. And first thing I want to ask is, if they have substance abuse in their family, and so many families do.
Sure.
Like, how could they reach out to you to get started to help them in some ways? Because you say 15 to 25,
Yeah.
but yet you're just talking about a 74-year-old
Sure.
right here, and you're not going to turn anybody down.
We don't turn anybody down, but we are target specific for younger people.
Okay.
And the reason for that is you get an older person, you have probably a minimum one marriage, sometimes two, grandkids, house payments, car payments. There's so much that goes along with helping somebody older that has more in life that has went wrong, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so we're target specific to young people, but because it's a gift, I can't say no to anybody. And so we try to help as much as we can. Now, the older ones, I try to do one-on-one, two-on-two. I'm not bringing them to a young person's meeting, but there's meetings everywhere, and people who are watching, they know what a meeting entails and where to go. There's a meeting on every corner. Every church has, mostly every church has one. Some of them do a lot of good, some don't. It's part of being a bigger part. Like, we don't, just so you know, we don't have this all figured out. We do not have this figured out. We just know that we're in it to win it, and we will do whatever we can to get you help. And again, it's not about our church. It's not about any one church. We don't proselytize, you got to come to our church or that church or this church. No. Look here. Addiction doesn't know any church. It doesn't know any skin color. It doesn't know any demographics. It doesn't know anything other than, look, it's out of the pit of hell. A thief comes to rob, kill, and destroy. What do drugs and alcohol do? Rob, kill, and destroy. What does God's word say? I've come to give you life and give it abundantly. So there's a way to introduce someone to faith, and then we have to rely on God to touch their heart, their softened heart. but there's no way we can force anybody. Like we give 80, some people go to a meeting, you get a keychain for a day clean, a week clean, a year clean. They're called tags. And when you do a program, you tag out of your program. We give $80 Bibles if they want one. We give hoodie sweatshirts if they want one. We can give them a book if they want one. I don't push anything on anybody. It's allowing them to see the difference. What makes us different? Well, we've been there. I never use that. Been there, done that, hate that. She's never been there. How much good could she have? The young lady, Olivia Matthews, and I'll say it proudly, she volunteers for us for 8 years. She holds 2 master's degrees, just did her doctorate. Never smoked, drank anything. She is so compassionate of young people struggling with drugs and alcohol. She'll do more good for them than a lot of people that were in that lifestyle.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
But how they can get a hold of us is at you10.org is our website, or they can give us a call at 724-989-0679, which is my phone, that everything goes through me and then I get to him. Unless you got his number, his is 0678. 0678, so he'll take it. He'll take it too.
No,
So yeah, they can get a hold of us either through our website or online, or on the phone, excuse me,
It's
cell
on
phone.
literature.
I mean, I wanted you to come in because when I once interviewed for Ryan Holmes, and I have degrees in education. I wanted to be a guidance counselor and coach baseball and basketball teams and win state championships. That's what I wanted to do. But the jobs just weren't there in the educational world. It was hard to get into the school. So, I have a family. The kids are hungry every day. I always say, these young boys say, "What's it like being a father?" I said, "Well, the kids are hungry every day." And so you need to go get a job and be able to support them. So I had an opportunity to interview for Ryan Holmes. This guy, he interviewed me 3 times. I mean, the best interview ever that anyone ever interviewed me. And I finally asked him, I'm like, what do you look for? Like, you're really good at what you do. What do you look for? He goes, you know what I really like? He goes, I don't need straight A's. I don't need everybody to have this polished background. What I really like is when someone runs into a problem and they overcome it. He goes, that rings bells for me.
Sure.
And so he hired me, and I never forgot that. And that's why I wanted you to come here today, because you had a big problem called addiction.
Sure.
And you come from a family that had a problem family-wide. But you didn't just get caught in it and just lay in the gutter. You picked yourself up, and now you're helping all these other people. See, that inspires me.
Thank you.
It really does. It's such a positive story. And I always tell people, it's like, surround yourself with people that can uplift you. And you guys are that. Your story is that.
Thank you.
And that's why I wanted to share this today with the people that are watching this, because it's a remarkable story. I mean, on so many levels, not only what you went through with your kids and their problems, which was massive with your son, but also, being in addiction, and you meet when you're like 16 years old, and you're together for 45 years, all through all of that. There's so many people out there that just want to be happy in a relationship, in a marriage, and they're struggling. And I'm sure it hasn't been all wine and roses over here, but you're strong and you're together, and that's an inspiration too.
Yeah. We were broke up several times for a couple of days.
Before we got married.
Yeah, all those
Not
things.
after.
That was before we got married.
16, of course we're going to break up. Sorry.
That's all right. No, it's all good. We just keep it real.
Yeah.
Keep it real.
That's what we are.
You're
Yeah,
real.
there is
See is
no-
what you got.
That's it. Next time you see me, it's the same thing. I'll have a different sweatshirt on.
So they call you Big Joe?
Yes,
they
they
nickname
do.
me, yes.
Big Joe, you're a big guy.
Well, we were meeting in our house for 18 months before we moved to a church. And I'll never forget Billy Moran. My wife would cook every week, and he said, this is the bomb, meaning the food was unbelievable.
Oh, it's your wife's food.
Yeah. And when we were at the house, she would cook before we moved to church and volunteers and blah, blah, blah. And so he nicknamed me, he said, Big Joe. From that night, it's been Big Joe ever since.
Really?
I didn't ask for it.
No. But you wear it proudly.
Well,
He does. He does.
Yeah. So what's your advice for people that are in relationship, that are struggling in relationships? Chris, what's your advice for that? You've done it for 45 years.
Put Christ first, of course, but it's not 50-50. There's days it's 95-5.
Them days will wear me out because 95, you know.
That 95 was me.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing. You just gotta, crap happens, in life. Not everything's gonna be perfect. And if you think it's greener on the other side,
Yeah, but
it's a matter of,
in Mary's class, the only thing I remember
oh yeah.
is he said, Tom Glasser said, Chrissy, you're over here. He drew it on a chalkboard. And Joe, you're over here. And Jesus is right here. Chrissy, if you grow closer to Christ the rest of your life, and Joe, you grow closer to Christ the rest of your life, you will grow closer together all your life, and anything that happens, you will be able to overcome because of what's covering you. That's the only thing I remember. And so far, that has held true.
That's a big takeaway right there.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It is. You guys are just incredible to talk to. I'm so glad that you could come and spend some time with us today.
Good.
It was
Thank you
just
for
a
having
real
us.
blessing to have you guys and to tell your story. And you're helping so many people, and you want to help a lot more people. And so we want you guys that are watching. There's a book here, Good Kids Gone Bad. Good Kids Gone Bad. And Joe, you wrote this book.
I did.
He did.
You wrote this book. That's something to be proud of.
Thank you.
Especially coming from Penn Hill. No, I'm just teasing. I'm joking. There's a lot of very intelligent people from Penn Hill.
Yeah. And again, what's the, how do they get a hold of you, Chris?
The book they can get on Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
It's everywhere.
And yeah, pretty much everywhere. And YOU, it could be YOU10.org or 724-989-0679.
And I'm going to go on a limb here. I've never done this before.
Should you tell me first?
Joe's going out on a limb. Let's hold on.
If anybody watching, if they think we could be a help to them and their family, we will come running. That's what we do.
It's beautiful.
Now, am I looking forward for 100 people to call and say, hey, let's go hang out? No. If you have a situation, even to talk on the phone, sometimes you can talk someone off the ledge on the phone, but we will come and help. The book took 25 years to write, hundreds and hundreds of pages of notes, and my part of that was done in 2 weeks. So it's a lot of, that's all experiential. That's not any type of head knowledge or education. That's just all real life experience. It took a long time to do it.
Yeah.
But
That's terrific. You guys are terrific.
Thank
It's a
you.
great story. I'm so happy that you came to visit with me today and share that story. And I just give you guys so much credit for trying to help all these people and helping all these people.
Yeah.
It's just it's wonderful to see that. And that's why I wanted to do this. And I wish you both the best,
Thank you.
best
It's
moving
a pleasure
forward.
to be here,
Thank you.
and I'm sure we'll be in touch other than just this, but keep in touch. We're from
Yeah.
Penn Hills people don't forget.
You
I'll
got
see
that
you
right.
September 13th.
You got that right. That's
See,
right.
I had to tell her because I forgot already.
Yeah, you got that right. So,
Wait a second, and we get in free.
well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Again
Thanks for having us.
What a blessing to be here.
Thanks. And I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Just how people can get themselves in a real tough situation and come out stronger and help other people with it. So inspirational. Thank you, Joe and Chris, for coming. And one other thing I wanted to mention. If you or your mother or your sister or your brother needed an organ transplant to save your life, would you take it? I think we would all say yes. So what I say is please consider being an organ donor. It's giving the gift of life. You can't take it with you. You can save somebody's life. I know many people that are still here with that. So thank you again for watching. I'm your host, Lee Adams. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.